you went to school for what
Studied snakes.
You studied snakes, but then how'd you come across this whole ballistic job?
I went to Arizona to see about graduate school.
Okay.
And moved down there because I wanted to go to Arizona because there's more rattlesnakes in Arizona than any other state in the country. And so I went down to Arizona, and while I was down there, I worked construction for a couple of weeks, and I was driving a nail into a foundation on a house, and chipped, lacerated my cornea. Went in, worked on my eye for a while, and gave me an eye patch, and they told me to go home for a few days and keep the eye patch on. So I was reading an American Rifleman magazine, and there was an advertisement in there for a company called Dillon Precision, and it was in Scottsdale, and I said, see if they need anybody. So I called them and drove up 2 days later and interviewed and worked there for 11 years.
Welcome back to the Beard Bros podcast. Road to 500. Like, subscribe, and comment. Today's guest is
Daryl Dudley. I work for Red Mountain Arsenal here in Roswell. And it's the Beard Brothers, and I guess I came properly attired.
There you go. That is true. How are you today?
Incredibly well and getting better.
There you go. That's good. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm new to New Mexico. Moved here about a year and a half ago. I came here from South Texas, and as I said earlier, I'm from America because I grew up in Iowa, lived in Arizona, lived in Missouri, Virginia, Florida. I could list a whole bunch of states that I've lived in, and I'm currently residing in Roswell. And many of my friends and people I used to work with say that's because I'm closer to the mothership. And so they knew I'd have to wind up in Roswell.
Yeah, there you go. Is that temporary, your stay here?
I'm figuring 10 to 15 years.
Oh, well, that's not too temporary.
I retired twice and came out of retirement and landed in Roswell.
Okay, and what is it that you do?
I am an interior ballistician. What that means is when you fire a gun, when you pull the trigger, the firing pin strikes the primer, ignites the propellant, pushes the projectile forward through the tube, the barrel, and exits the muzzle. I study what happens from the firing pin to the muzzle. And then an exterior ballistician studies what happens from the muzzle to the target.
Okay.
And a terminal ballistician studies what happens at the target. So I do the interior ballistics. I study the propellants. I work for a company in Virginia designing small arms propellants, and the propellant is what makes the projectile go. Okay. And if it burns too fast, you'll have too high a pressure and can cause an unexpected rapid disassembly of the firearm, which means it explodes. And remembering that all of that action takes place right next to your face.
Right.
So you don't want it too fast. If it's too slow, it won't get the projectile out of the barrel. And so the next one will stand on top of it, and again, it can explode or damage the firearm, So you want people like me studying what goes on inside. It's not just what happens inside, but how it affects the projectile. Again, when you point a firearm, what you want to do is hit your target. Mm-hmm. And so different propellants will react differently with different projectiles. The diameter, the weight, and the shape. And so I find the propellant that works best with that projectile in that particular firearm. Okay. And the company that I work for, we tailor make ammunition to firearms for law enforcement and military personnel. We also make mass-produced ammunition for law enforcement and military personnel. And we do have some that we sell at the local gun shops.
Oh, wow. Is there a specific firearm that you deal with, like mostly, like just rifles, pistols?
No, we do 9mm and 45.
Okay.
But everything else is all rifle. And we do a lot of 50 BMG work for the military. And I'm getting into 338 for the military and for law enforcement, and a lot of 308 and 5.56.
Wow.
So,
and how'd you get, if you can even discuss it, how'd you get involved in something like this?
yeah, when I was a little kid growing up in Iowa, I liked snakes and I liked the outside.
Okay.
And so I hunted a lot, either snakes, rabbits, squirrels, ducks, pheasants. And when I went to college, it was to get a degree in herpetology. I specialize in rattlesnakes and cobras.
Okay.
That's what my forte is in the herpetology field.
Wow.
And when I was going to Iowa State, I had 32 rattlesnakes in my laundry room,
What?
28 different subspecies. When my wife and I got married for our honeymoon, I took her to Florida to the Miami Serpentarium to show her where I worked when I was at the Serpentarium. And we went down there and saw that, and one of the guys I worked with handed me an 18-inch long Eastern Diamondback and said, "Here's your wedding present." And my wife wouldn't hold it.
Oh, shoot.
She just wasn't going to hold an 18-inch rattlesnake. And but I don't think many people were given a rattlesnake for their wedding.
I don't think anyone has ever been gifted that.
When I get married, I'm gonna invite you, and I hope you bring me like a rattlesnake or something. That'd be pretty cool.
My one disappointment is that I've been here for a year and a half and I've only seen 2 rattlesnakes.
Really?
Yeah. But I haven't had a chance to go out looking for them. I found those 2 when we were out shooting and working up loads for ammunition.
Okay.
But I play with everything that I find.
I'm not
Scorpions,
sure what
tarantulas.
direction to go with this. Do
I
I want
wanted-
more about the guns, or do I want more about the rattlesnakes?
I want to have the
Um,
snakes for a little bit.
An interesting thing is, and what somebody said was, everything that I like and have ever done will kill you.
Yeah, I mean,
I
those
see-
two things
I
are
see
And
that.
at the top of the
that's
list.
all I've ever done is guns and poisonous snakes.
Oh,
And you know what? I guess I like that, because the thing about working with those is if you don't pay attention, you don't get a second chance.
No, that's
And
true.
I like that. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. And
Yeah.
just go with it. So
Dang, that's crazy that you had rattlesnakes as like pets, I
Yeah.
guess. Were you, I don't even know what to ask. I guess it threw me for
How
a
do you
loop.
get so many rattlesnakes? Like,
travel all over the country catching them.
oh, okay. Then you just
And-
take them back to your basement.
Yeah, and took them back, and I built cages, and I had breeding pairs, and I studied them and played with them, and there's a lot of, the interesting thing is snakes have personalities just like dogs and cats. I mean, you can't just reach in and pick up a rattlesnake and play with it, unless, of course, it's an Eastern Diamondback or a Southwestern Speckled.
I don't even know the Southwestern Speckled
Yeah,
is.
The Southwestern Speckled is from Arizona, and it just comes into New Mexico very seldom. But it's Crotalus mitchellii pyrrhus is its Latin name, and it's a little snake about 22 inches long, and it's just as docile as a common rat snake.
Wow.
In the Eastern Diamondback, Crotalus adamanteus is the same way. I mean, that's, as I say, the guy down in Florida just had it in his palm of his hand and said, "Here's your wedding present." Because Easterns, if you don't hurt them, they're just calm and docile.
Okay.
Don't do that with a Western.
They're
A
gonna.
Western Diamondback doesn't have the personality that the Eastern Diamondback does.
Okay.
And the prairie rattlesnakes here are not bad. Excuse me. You've got a lot more Mojaves around here. Don't do that with a Mojave either. Crotalus scutulatus does not have a good personality.
Okay.
And so they won't chase you, they won't run you down, but they will battle you the whole time you're there.
Wow.
That's good
if you're,
knowledge, though.
and if you're close, they may strike you repeatedly.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That sounds
Intense.
intense.
Yeah.
my wife and I were in Arizona once and driving along a canal, and I said, "Oh, a Mojave," and I turned the truck around so it was sitting so that she could watch out the door. And she rolled up the window and I said, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "I'm not going to let you get that anywhere near me." And so I grabbed the hook, put it in a bag, spun it up, threw it in the back of the truck, and took it home. So
Oh my God.
How does,
He's like,
how does she
very-
feel about your snake love?
I had snakes before I met her, so it just, she didn't like them, she didn't play with them, but she had no problem doing laundry right next to 32 of them.
Oh
I'd
my
I mean,
God.
they were in a laundry room in the
be
basement.
so scared.
That would be, yeah, like just a snake's, intimidating in itself.
Yeah.
Like even, especially not knowing a snake. Like
But the whole thing is, as you just said, not knowing.
yeah, that's I think the intimidation
You
factor.
should be afraid of anything you don't understand.
Right, I
And,
agree.
I mean, you know what? I don't like cats because I don't understand them. I will play with them and do everything else, but I don't understand them. And kids, yeah, no,
Same thing.
don't have a clue.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Yeah.
We're on the same page on this one.
Right.
Interesting thing about cobras is, yes, they're very toxic, but a cobra has to turn and look at you, look you up and down, and find a place to strike. A rattlesnake, on the other hand, can just hit you.
At any,
And it
pretty
just,
much.
because they have heat sensing pits, loreal pits between their eyes and their nostrils, and they're heat sensing, and so they can change their their direction mid strike,
Wow.
and they're very, very quick. Whereas a cobra just has to get you because its toxin is so high. The toxicity of its venom is so high, it just has to get you.
Just barely.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's a good question, I guess, because I wasn't prepared for the snake conversation.
Me neither.
So on I guess the venom aspect of the two is, okay, if you get bit by a rattlesnake, I guess it probably varies on the type of snake.
It completely varies by the type of snake. Troilus the Mojave.
Okay, and that's a local snake
And
here
that's a
in New
local
Mexico.
snake. Its main diet is cold-blooded prey. It eats snakes and lizards.
Okay.
Okay, so because it eats snakes and lizards, it has a highly neurotoxic venom. The neurotoxic venom works on the nervous system. Okay? The hemotoxic venom, which is found in most other crotalids, rattlesnakes, works in a warm environment. It works on the blood.
Okay.
And it causes massive hemorrhaging when it bites something. The neurotoxin causes paralysis, and what it does is it actually comes in and stops the animal or its prey. It stops the heartbeat and the breathing. So it's a neurotoxin. Cobras, excuse me, there's some cobras that have high cardiotoxin, which works only on the heart.
Wow. So what would be? Let's keep it more local, since
Okay.
that's probably something we would deal with more often, because we're not in the jungle where cobras are.
I hope I'm there.
So
Just get it.
what would be like a venomous snake that we don't want? I mean, any snake for me, it's probably not the best idea for me to mess around with it. But I'm just saying, what are we avoiding? What type of severity if being struck by one of these rattlesnakes locally?
Most snake bites are dry.
Okay.
What that means is when they bite, there's no envenomation. A snake doesn't have any feet or hands,
Okay.
so it can't hit you or punch you. Its only defense mechanism is its mouth.
Right.
Most snakes, venomous snakes, and I've been hit twice, it's a dry bite because all they're doing is they're trying to protect themselves and
Okay.
keep you from going away, or
Okay.
keep you going, from handling them or harassing them.
Okay.
So, and they don't want to waste their venom. So they won't. Now, we go back to the Mojave. It will very seldom have a dry bite. It will do some envenomation because they're just not happy campers. And the Western Diamondback, it's give or take. But if you don't harass them, they're not going to chase you and they're not going to keep biting you. Don't get close enough to bite. A snake typically strikes up to half of its body length. It can get up to 2/3 of its body length, but typically half. So just, give it plenty of room and it'll go away. You know what? If that snake's 3 feet in front of you, you got a whole world behind you.
Right.
And you're a lot faster than it is.
And
So
there's
just-
no
so get
snakes
away.
that really, when you say chase you, they don't do that anyways, do
The
they?
female king cobra.
Oh, that will
The
chase you.
female king cobra is the only thing that will chase you, and if she is sitting on a nest, the king cobra is also the only snake in the world that builds a nest, lays its eggs, and then protects them until they hatch.
Oh, really?
Yep. And if you walk within 30 yards of a king cobra nest, she will chase you
Oh my.
because she's protecting her eggs. Now the chances around here of coming upon one inadvertently are probably pretty slim.
Slim. But not
Considerably.
impossible?
No, it's impossible.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Because
that's
they're
good.
only found in Asia.
Okay, I was like, Dad, do we have cobras in New
No,
Mexico?
we do not. We do, however, have a cousin.
A cousin of the cobras in
The
New
coral
Mexico.
snake. Yes.
Oh, okay.
The coral snake is a cousin of the cobra.
But they're not venomous though, right? Are
Coral
they?
snakes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they are?
Their venom toxicity, the LD50
Uh-huh.
of the coral snake, is the highest in America.
Oh my
And there are
gosh.
4 different subspecies of microrids here and of the coral snakes.
Oh my
There's
god.
the Arizona, the southern, the Texas, and the Florida. And they're beautiful creatures, but their fangs won't penetrate a leather glove.
Wow.
That's crazy.
But they are so nocturnal that I have been hunting snakes most of my life, and I have never seen one in the wild, nor do I know anybody in Arizona that's found one.
Really?
Yeah.
That
They're
reminds
very tough to find.
That reminds me. Oh man, I don't even remember his name. But there's this gentleman. I just happened to. Have you heard of the show called Alone?
No.
Okay, so this show called Alone is about like these individuals that believe they can survive in the middle of like nowhere
Mm-hmm.
for however long. So there's 10 people and they drop everybody off. Like they would drop me off at this location and then like let's say 5 miles they could drop you and 5 more miles they'll drop you. So y'all are not near each other. So basically what ends up happening is you have to survive for however long you can. And you don't know who's gone or if anyone's gone until the end. If you're the lone survivor, then they'll come and get you and let you know. But you don't know. It could be 30 days. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. Just varies. Needless to say, this guy, he ends up doing that and naked and afraid and whatever. So he ends up, now he has a show and it's called Alive or Extinct, I think. And he goes and finds these animals that he tries to find like these animals that have been considered extinct for years and decades, you know. And so that's what that reminds me of this animal like you've not found. Has anyone found that?
Oh yeah, I mean they're out there. That's not a problem. It's not that they're not there. It's just they're strictly nocturnal.
Okay.
They're extremely shy,
Okay.
and it's just tough to find them.
Man.
I mean, I can go to places in Arizona and find endangered species, thick enough that you can't hardly walk.
Wow.
But I also know where to go for those. And if I wanted to seriously went out and spent a weekend looking for a coral snake, chances are I'd find one. But
Okay.
it's not that important to me now, nor was it then.
Okay. I see.
To spend it, just I've never come upon one, and
It's crazy to see how I didn't even know that was a thing. Like being like highly intelligent in the snake industry, I guess you'd call it. Like I didn't know that was like a field of study.
yes, it's called it's herpetology, is reptiles and amphibians,
Right.
and I do ophiology, which is just snakes.
Okay.
That's crazy. It's how you say it?
Ophiology,
Ophiology.
Ophiology.
Oh shit.
That's so crazy. And so, is that more of like now your hobby?
Yes.
It's your
Yeah.
hobby.
Yeah.
That's,
It's what I went to school for, and I wound up shooting guns for a living. It's, you know what? You never know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because snakes. I don't ever run. Like, ironically, I found a snake in my backyard, and it was super thin. It was kind of long. I'd say maybe about 2 feet long, but like the girth of it wasn't very widened or whatever. And then
What color was it?
it was like a. It was kind of dark. It like had like a little tan to almost green hint to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, to be honest, it looked like a garden snake.
Okay, it was probably whiptail.
What's
We have coach whips. We have coach whips here, and the coach whips are very long and slender, and they look like a garter snake.
Let me see. I might have a picture of it. I think I
And-
saved it.
But there's green snakes here. There's the keeled green and the smooth green snakes here, and there's also the coach whips. And the coach whips are long, slender, and they've got a long tail.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's not a video. Wait, don't I have it in video? Let me see. You can keep talking. I'm sorry.
But there's also bull snakes around here. There's the occasional fox snake. There's some gopher snakes, and I've seen some black rat snakes. I mean, there's a lot of different species of snakes around here.
Yeah, we see sworn.
Here, check that out. I know it's not the best picture.
At my work, we caught a bull snake. That boy was like 3 feet long.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a big one. I would exaggerate. It probably wasn't 3 feet long.
That's a bull snake.
It's a bull snake?
Yep, that was a bull snake.
So what's,
Yep.
like, what is, should I be afraid?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the nice thing about snake, the only thing you should be afraid of is a rattlesnake. And
Okay.
the reason is because it's toxic. And if I lived out in the desert, I would not be afraid of them. I mean, I wouldn't be afraid of them, nor would I work them. I'd pick up black widows and carry them outside so they don't get smashed by the pallets or by a door. But the thing is snakes are only there if there's food.
Okay.
Okay? Animals don't come into some place, plant a garden, or build a grocery store, except for man. All other animals can only survive where there is food.
Okay.
If there's no food, they move on. So if you find an abundance of snakes around your property, that indicates there's a lot of food there. Now, in the case of the bull snake, it could be rodents, it could be birds. There's, things that it can eat.
Right.
And if there's nothing for it to eat, it's not going to hang around.
Okay.
So the thing that you have to ask yourself is, why do I have snakes in my house
Okay.
or around my house?
Right.
Because that's what they're looking for, is food.
See, as crazy as that sounds, is I've been here for a little over 5 years, and I've never seen a snake. But I do live, like, right here by a field.
Right.
So
And there's stuff in the field, and the thing is, that snake didn't hang around.
no, I hadn't
So
seen it since that day.
It didn't find anything, so it moved on.
Cool. I'm glad with that.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was so skinny though, because the one we found was like
Right.
that big. It was huge.
Really?
It may have been gravid. It could have had babies in it. It could have
It
just
was
eaten.
huge,
Yeah,
bro.
and they're all different.
And to me, I don't know the facts, but usually what I've heard is with the rattlesnake, they give you what they call a warning, which is the rattle itself.
If it's convenient.
What does that mean? Like when you say
Not
conven-
always. They don't
Oh,
always
really?
rattle. Yeah.
So you could possibly come
You
upon
could,
one without
you
even
could
knowing.
step on one and and it would bite you straight away.
That's
Well,
not so
because, same thing. I mean, if I come up and give you a couple of shoves,
weird. And
you're
you're
going to
quiet.
say, don't do that, I'm going to hit you,
Yeah.
But if you startle me, I'm going to swing on you.
Oh man, that's worrisome because
Mythbusters right here.
It's like you go out, I go hunting or go sight my guns or go just shooting or whatever, and you're just all over the place.
Right.
And I mean, it's not like you're not watching, but you're not watching all the time. I guess
You're aware of your surroundings, and that's
Right.
what you have to be.
Yeah.
Is you look at something, and where you're going when you're going out shooting and doing stuff, you're aware of your surroundings, and in the back of your mind, you know where there could be something. You're not stepping over or into piles of brush or debris.
Right.
Okay, you're walking around that because in the back of your mind, the survival instinct is kicking in. When you're hunting, the biggest thing is don't just step over logs or large stones. Walk around them. I mean, that's just a basic, when you're in the woods, technique.
Right.
But other than that, it's the same thing. When you're hunting, going out, walking across the desert looking for deer or rabbits, quail, whatever you're looking for, you're still not walking through the brush. You're walking around it because there can be things hidden in it.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah,
every
that's good.
corner seems like
Right.
you're lurking around.
That's
I
good
don't know.
knowledge, because I'd be jumping like on the rocks, like walking on the rocks and stuff.
Yep.
I need to stop doing that.
It's just.
It's just there can be something on the other side or under it.
Oh, okay.
And
I see.
Yeah, because usually snakes will be under a rock. You can
Right.
lift a rock and there could be a snake under there.
Yep.
Oh,
And
I
so-
love the rock.
Well, I'm just saying that's how you find snakes. Usually you'll flip rocks to find snakes.
You lift things to see what's under them. They're either hiding because they're nocturnal. They're either hiding to stay cool, or they felt the vibration in the ground of your approach.
Okay.
And so they sought some place to hide. But that's why when you're out in the field looking for snakes, I use my hook and I just lift whatever it is they might be under.
So I'm highly recommend nobody fiddle with snakes if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, that's very, yeah.
Because even let's say that bull snake, say I'm just ballsy that day and I want to try to pick it up. If it strikes me, is it just going to hurt?
It's going to hurt. It'll also startle you. You're going to jump. And if it does sink some of its teeth into you, it's going to sink a multiple number of teeth into your arm or your hand because they have a lot of teeth in their jaw. Their jaw opens up and it also expands sideways. That's how that little head can take such a large meal if it eats a rat, we'll say, because the jaws expand. And there's 2 rows of teeth in each quarter of their jaw.
Oh, dang.
And that's how they don't have any hands. And so when they get to prey, they orient it so that it's nose first, head first. Yeah. And then those teeth literally walk the food back into their mouth. And then the muscles in their body then pull it down too. And they, on the top of their vertebra, on the bottom of them, the top of their esophageal canal, there's also hooks, and it just keeps pulling the food backwards.
Oh, dang, snakes are wild.
They're pretty crazy, yeah.
Well, when we swallow food, sometimes you will swallow too much, and it'll get caught in your throat, and you keep swallowing. What that's doing is the muscles in your throat are pushing it down, and your whole esophageal canal does the same thing, pushing the food down into your stomach.
Huh.
Because you think, it falls down. Well, gravity pulls it down. No, muscles pull it down. Because it's very tight in there. Yeah. And if you have too big a piece, it just keeps, and you can feel it sometimes, say a piece of bread or a piece of meat, you can feel that thing going all the way down. And you feel, and there's muscles pulling that down. Because think about it, gravity can't pull a golf ball through a garden hose.
No. They cannot,
but you can force.
Muscles.
But you can force something through by squeezing it behind it, and that's what the muscles do in your esophageal canal, and that's how a snake swallows.
Huh. That is wild. I would have never thought. I don't know. That's crazy how you know so much about snakes. It's like it's a hobby that I don't think I've met anybody with. Not many. Even just animals in general. Because, I don't know, I feel like the norm around here is killing animals, not enjoying animals, I guess. Other than, your casual dog and cat, I guess. But snakes, I feel like that's not maybe common, but I feel like a lot of people have that fear of snakes.
It's called ophidiophobia.
Is that what the phobia is called?
Yep, and that's back to the oaf. The ophiology, ophidiophobia, is Latin for snake, or serpentis.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I'm not, necessarily scared, but obviously, when I don't know much, I don't try to, you said, I'm not trying to play with it.
Yeah.
And so do you, the snakes that you have personally, are you... hands-on with all of them? Are they your buddies?
I don't have any now.
Oh, you don't have any now?
No, I just play with them when I find them in the desert.
Oh, okay.
I don't have time to take care of them now.
And the people that say that snakes are overpopulated, what's your opinion on that?
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing?
No such thing.
Because I feel like people take that as the opportunity to, we'll just use the word, hunt snakes.
Yeah, and the thing is, they are so underpopulated now that I can tell you that back in the 70s, I could go out in Arizona and pick up 30 or 40 snakes a night.
Oh my gosh.
And now I would be lucky to find 2 snakes in a week.
Dang.
Because with man has encroached upon their habitat so much. Our fields around here, the ranches are huge, there's cattle on them, you've got row crops, you've got buildings, houses, you got little subdivisions, roads, and all of that is detrimental to the habitat of everything. Not just snakes, but also birds, insects, mammals. So all the mammals, excuse me, and I'm speaking specifically of rodents, you'll find a lot more rodents in town because there's nothing here to take care of them. There's no predators here.
Because they've been fled off
right, they've been taken out by progress, construction, habitation, and so the rodents have all come into town because there's only the occasional cat to be a problem. And that's why exterminators have such a good business.
You think that's why New York has such big rats?
Because there's an ample supply of food. And the things that, in bringing up New York, the thing about New York is they have the perfect environment in the sewer system. The sewer systems in every town are moist. They're always the same temperature year-round. There's plenty of water and there's plenty of food in them. Whether it's trash and debris coming through or each other species, other animals, there's plenty of food in the sewers. Interesting thing, the highest concentration of raccoons in North America is found in Ames, Iowa.
Really? Huh.
Yes. In the sewer system, in town. You cannot drive across Ames, Iowa without seeing a dozen raccoons if you go through at night. Because they come out of the sewers at night, there's all kinds of food, especially behind restaurants and hotels. Places that are throwing food stuff into the dumpsters.
That's crazy.
How can you go anywhere else and find a better buffet than a dumpster behind a restaurant?
Right. It's just crazy because that's not normal to us.
Right.
We don't see raccoons.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare. Last night I seen a skunk. There was a skunk out at the disc golf fields. It was like running about. But it's like, I don't know. You don't see those type of animals. Right. Like rats, we get more like mice, but you're not gonna get like a rat from like New York. Those things are humongous.
Yeah, the Norway rats are pretty big.
Yeah. So, like I seen a picture and this sucker was like a house cat.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah. The Norway rats get very large.
Yes.
What?
And I'm like, the guy's holding it by its tail and it's humongous. I'm like, that is.
It wasn't a possum?
I was just gonna say, opossums look exactly like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been, but they classified it as a rat, and then look, either way, whatever it was. See, because like possums, we don't see possums either.
And there are a fair number of skunks around here. I mean, last year there were a lot of them. In the spring, just all of a sudden, poof, they were all coming out at the same time, and there was a fair number of them. And their main diet is rodents.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
They eat rodents and snakes, but their main diet is rodents.
Okay, now I know skunks are good. They kill the snakes.
Everything is good. I mean, when you get down to it, everything is good. I mean, even the cockroach. But none of us want to have a bunch of those around.
No. I feel like any type of bug or insect is not good. Or rodents or reptiles. Anything other than your dog, which is a hound. Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between dogs and hounds, but
So I don't know, whenever I see that snake, I didn't get scared. I just let it do its thing. I didn't even bother it. It was just like, don't be in my yard.
It's gone now.
Yeah, he's gone.
I've had people over in the place where I live call and say, can you come over and get rid of this snake and things like that.
Do they do that here? Do many people know that you deal with
I've
snakes?
offered that to the game people, and so I've not gotten any calls yet, but in Missouri I got quite a few calls from that I had to go de-snake somebody's house.
What's like the most lethal snake you've ever dealt with? Is it the Cobra?
The Indian cobra.
And is it like, how is it that you deal with something how is it you're not scared, first of all? Because you're just knowledgeable?
Because I know what I'm doing.
I know what you're doing.
I know what I need to do and how to do. I mean, it's the same thing in dealing with explosives, designing propellants. I mean, you're handling all these components that this is just fine here, and this is just fine here, and this one's fine. But you combine them, and now you've got something that's extremely dangerous. So you just do it right, and you do it the way it's supposed to be. And snakes are the same way. I mean, I pick up tarantulas and just scoot them up in my hand and carry them off the road and set them down. A tarantula, once it gets its pedipalps up there and decides that you're okay, and then it just goes up. Now, if a tarantula raises its forelegs up or its pedipalps up, and raises its abdomen up in a defensive manner, relax, because guess what? It's now in a defensive mode and it's not happy. It may bite you, which is not a terrible thing. It's going to hurt for a while. It's not going to kill you. Okay. And there'll be very little necrosis, if any, or it'll start flinging its hairs. And those are tough because you can't hardly see them.
Yeah, I had that happen to me one time. There was this little spider at a buddy's house, and it was, I don't know what kind of spider it was, but it was kind of weird looking, fuzzy looking, and we were trying to kill it or whatever. Sorry. But we were trying to kill this thing, and it was like kind of a little jumpy, whatever. Didn't think nothing of it, okay? And then, like, I get in the truck and we're leaving, and all of a sudden, like, I had like an irritation on my arm. No, you don't know what? I don't think I was trying to kill it. I think I was trying to take a picture of it. And I had my arm and I had this irritation. Mm-hmm. And I am guessing it had like hit me with its hairs.
It was flinging little hairs.
Yeah, I had irritation. It was like little, almost like a rash.
Yeah.
Like a porcupine? Just like...
Yeah. The hairs on the back of their legs, or on their legs, are little missiles.
What?
And they'll shake their legs and fling them at their...
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds legit. I'm going to have to watch a video on that. That sounds cool, low-key.
But see, it's crazy because you're comfortable with, like, arachnids, reptiles. Is there anything else you're, like, cool with just handling? You said cats.
Anything except a cockroach.
Why?
They're creepy.
Of all things, that's what's creepy?
I get that.
I had some coworkers that said that once. I bent down and I picked something up with a pair of needle nose pliers, took it over the trash, and turned around. They're both looking. I said, "What?" He says, "Let me see if I got this straight. You pick up tarantulas, you play with rattlesnakes, you pick up all kinds of lizards and millipedes out in the desert, and you picked up a scorpion on your billiard cap and took it outside. And you picked up a black widow and took it around the corner so it didn't get hurt. And yet you went over there and got a pair of needle nose pliers to pick up a dead cockroach."
A dead one?
And I said, "Well, yeah, they're creepy."
That's true. Like,
hey, everybody got their limits, bro.
That's right.
That's true.
My limit is cockroach.
His limit's a cockroach.
Hey, well, that's
I ain't gonna touch no dead cockroach either. I'll grab a napkin and pick it up.
Well, I'm not trying to pick it. I guess you're right. I ain't trying to pick up.
It's just I've got no problem at all playing with those things. And the thing is, back to the cobra or the rattlesnakes. Don't do it. I mean, yes. I mean, I pin their head and I will grab them behind the head, but I don't pinch them too hard. You don't grip them too hard. You grip them hard enough to keep them from coming around, because not all of them are friendly.
Right.
All right. I mean, they're all going to keep trying to bite you, so you have to have a firm enough grip so that they can't turn around, because they can turn on, they can turn their head right around and get you if you're half an inch too far back. But just hold them and keep them steady. But the thing is, like that bull snake, even if it had tried to bite you, you could have held it for a little while, and it would have said, "Okay, as long as you don't pinch it, you don't constrict it, you don't hurt it." I mean, like, I would just pick them up and just hold them, and if it bites, wait till it's done, and then it's gonna say, "Okay."
So you said you've been struck a couple times. Are these by venomous?
I've been hit 3 times by rattlesnakes.
Okay, so what was the reaction to that? Like, what was
one hit me with its canebrake rattlesnake, hit me with its nose, and it backed up and said, "Don't do that again." And the Massasauga from Florida tried to hit me twice one night and drug its fang down my finger.
But it didn't actually.
They didn't end that on my. So.
Oh man. And so, what would have been like the proper precautions for that? Like,
I had it vented in my refrigerator.
Oh, okay. So you're prepared.
I'm prepared. But the thing is the anti-venom is as bad as the venom.
Really?
If you get bit by a rattlesnake and you go to the hospital, do not put a tourniquet or, just put a tourniquet on it. Do not cut it. Don't suck on it. Don't do everything. Elevate whatever it is above your heart. Remain calm.
That's
and go to the
important.
doctor. Now, the chances of you being fatal are extremely slim. Now, I say extremely slim because it's going to be, where did it bite you? I mean, if it bit you on the inside of the thigh or it bit you in the temple, not a good thing, because there's large veins and there's lots of blood flowing around in your temples. All right, but if you get bit in the hand, you get bit in the leg, go to the doctor, get to the hospital, and the thing that they're going to do is, number one, they're going to look at the bite. You need to identify the snake, make sure that it is poisonous, and then they have to look at the area, the bite area, and see how much necrosis, swelling, or edema is going on in that area before they start to administer the antivenom.
So,
Because it's as toxic as the venom. If they give you too much antivenom, you're in just the same situation as if you had gotten bit.
so hold on. Like, I want to go back a little bit. So you said I have to identify the snakes, but I'm just some regular, Joe over here that doesn't even know what a bull snake is. How am I supposed to know what kind of rattlesnake this is?
If you can, kill the snake and bring it with you.
So I got
know,
to now
I'm just-
murder a snake while I just got beat.
I'm just giving you.
Fuck it. You got to.
I'm not saying they're good. I'm just telling you this is what you should do.
I mean, at this point, I've
Right.
already been struck. I might as well take the sucker out.
Yeah,
Right.
you might as well.
If you can, I mean,
I might get struck again, but this time I'm coming in and it's over.
Might as well
son.
throw a machete at it. Try to hit
But-
it, bro.
if you can identify, because again, you have to be able to identify what it was.
Right.
Around here, if it's poisonous, it's a rattlesnake.
Okay.
But was it a Mojave or was it one of the other subspecies? Because it's the same antivenom, but they need more of it with the Mojave than they do with the others because of the amount of neurotoxins.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So again, and the thing is I realize that sounding, that you have to wait sounds counterproductive. But again, what if it's a dry bite?
And then you inject yourself with
And then
antivenom.
yeah.
Dang, that would be sucky too.
I mean, even when I had all of my rattlesnakes in the house, and I had antivenom, if I got bit, all I was going to do was identify which one bit me, grab the antivenom, and drive to the hospital.
For possible.
And wait.
Yeah.
Because I still have to wait to find out was I and how much.
Oh man, that's crazy. Like,
Wow,
it seems like an emergency. It's like, inject me with that right now. Oh man, that's tough.
Like you said, you do it too much, it's gonna. Yeah, it's worse.
Right.
Than just getting
It's
bit.
where it's the same thing as getting bit or worse. So
Man. So what's the difference between a venomous snake and a poisonous snake?
nothing.
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 So why are there
just-
two different
Synonyms.
Oh really?
Yep.
But aren't poisonous snakes more like vibrant in color?
No.
No.
I mean, again, venomous, poisonous, same thing.
Okay.
It's the same. I mean, a rattlesnake is venomous and it is poisonous.
Oh okay.
That makes sense.
Huh. That's interesting. Oh, what do I know?
I mean, when you talk about the Gila monster or the
Yeah.
Mexican beaded lizard,
Okay.
which are cousins, those are referred to as poisonous lizards.
Yeah, the
Not
Gila.
venomous lizards, but poisonous lizards. And the reason, and I'm just going to make a supposition here, they don't have fangs, they have venom glands, but their venom is in the saliva.
Right.
All right, so they have to bite you and chew. Now, the interesting thing about Helodermus suspectum is that its jaws are like vice grips.
Oh damn.
You know how when you over grip your vice grips, they lock in place?
Mhm.
That's exactly what their jaws do.
Oh.
Dang.
When they bite, they're there. And the best thing you can do when you get bit is just pull. And you know what? You
Probably
didn't need
gonna
that
rip.
chunk of flesh anyway.
No, that dude, Coyote Peterson, he does the Brave and Wilderness YouTube channel.
I don't have a TV. So.
Okay, so there's this guy. He's as crazy as it seems. He like intentionally gets like stung or bit by these various creatures. He accidentally got bit or whatever by a healer. Like he was, I don't know what he was doing. I think he was trying to film it, and it bit him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been like the tarantula hawk, the
Murder hornet.
No, not the murder. I think it's like
The murder hornet.
Yeah.
The murder hornet's really tough on bees, not so much on us.
See, I don't think it. I never even fed into that one.
Is that the murder hornet?
Yeah.
No, it is an actual creature.
Right.
But it eats bees.
But then I also heard that it was on the northwestern part of America, and like, in order for it to really like invade the country, it has to migrate.
It's going to, yes.
It will?
Yes,
You
it
think
will.
it'll migrate like across the country?
The same thing as the killer bees. The killer bees have moved north, and they're in South Texas, and they're moving their way across.
Oh.
Yeah.
But no harm, no foul, right? Like,
They're not good for our bee population.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
much more, they're LD50, the lethal dose of their toxicity. The LD50 is the lethal dose to 50% of the population, okay? And the way that they test that is, it used to be tested on mice. They would take venoms and poisons from animals and plants, and they would test them on mice.
Okay.
And they would have this amount, and they would test it on a population. And they were looking for the level of toxicity that killed 50% of the population. If it killed 80% of the population, then they put in less of the toxin into each of the animals. That makes sense?
Uh-huh.
Until they had something that would kill 50% of the population, and that was called an LD50, lethal dose for 50% of the population. You'll also see some venoms or some poisons, toxins, are listed with LD10s and LD100s. So
100% of a population?
something that will kill 100% of the population.
And what's
this
the
level will kill 100% of the population.
So what about these hornets? Are they going to kill off our bees?
The murder hornets?
Yeah.
Are going to kill off, yeah, they will eventually kill off the bees.
And
The
what
killer
is that?
bees are mating with our bees and transforming them.
So what does that mean for, like, I don't know, the ecosystem or whatever?
Not a good thing.
It's not a good
No.
thing, right?
It's the same thing as the row cropping, construction of houses, putting parks out places, knocking things out. You're ruining the ecosystem. You are changing the ecosystem in every place that you do these things. In the Mojave Desert, if you take a saguaro cactus and kill it, everything for 50 feet around that saguaro cactus will die. Because the symbiotic relationship between everything in a desert, and it's most easily seen in the desert because everything is wide open. You don't have all the grasses, all the trees and the bushes in a desert that you have in a place, say Iowa or Illinois or Wisconsin.
Right.
But if you take the saguaro cactus out, everything within 50 feet of it dies.
Well, that makes
And
sense.
is that
Because
because
That's
it's
the water source.
No,
Right.
it's a symbiotic relationship. Everything lives off of everything else.
Oh, okay.
But that one is like it's like
It's
hard.
the main hub of an area of an eco of that particular
Ah.
system right there.
That makes sense. So like whenever you cut a tree, you probably don't see it right away, but everything around it probably.
Right. It changes everything. If it can't go somewhere, it's got to go somewhere else. And when they were using DDT to kill the bugs in Arizona, in Phoenix, and in Tucson back in the 70s, they were killing all the bugs. Well, they realized, interesting, the saguaros were dying out. Well, the reason was because they were poisoning the bugs, which were being eaten by the bats. The bats were dying, and there's only one species of bat that pollinates the saguaro cactus. So without that bat to pollinate the saguaros, they were disappearing.
Oh dang! It's just a trickle effect.
Well, remember Newton's law?
Uh huh.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Dang.
Guess what?
Here it is.
Yep. There's another rule that's called unintended consequences. You know, if I if I take out that window and take down your screen, eventually you're going to have this room's going to dry out and the rain's going to come in, if there's rain, and it's going to fill up with dust in here. And,
Yeah.
so I mean, there are unintended consequences to everything that you do.
Dang.
Or intended consequences.
That's true. That is true. No, I had not really fed into the hornet thing, and then now that you've explained it more, I'm not sure what I would assume it'd be more like consequences of the hornet taking over, but what's your opinion on it?
Well, there's repercussions that will be felt throughout the industry, the aviary industry. The bee, the honey, it's going to be felt. And the same thing with the killer bees.
Man.
It all affects the aviary community.
And these bees can't gang up and just take out these hornets?
Nope.
Dang. Poor bees. All right.
Well, look at the snakes. That bull snake out there, he can't gang up and take care of you.
No, I can't.
But it's in the same scenario. Those bees taking care of those bees, no, because they're not equipped for that.
Yeah, those hornets.
The snakes are not
bees.
equipped to take care of us.
I mean, if there was 20 snakes coming after me, I ain't gonna lie, it'd be pretty.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I'd probably run too.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know what's going on here. Dr. Doolittle better show up. I don't know. That's crazy. So tell us more about your ballistic. I know we got way off track for about
that was
half an hour.
interesting, bro.
I want to hear though more about this. So you went to school for what
Studied snakes.
You studied snakes, but then how'd you come across this whole ballistic job?
I went to Arizona to see about graduate school.
Okay.
And moved down there because I wanted to go to Arizona because there's more rattlesnakes in Arizona than any other state in the country. And so I went down to Arizona, and while I was down there, I worked construction for a couple of weeks, and I was driving a nail into a foundation on a house, and chipped, lacerated my cornea. Went in, worked on my eye for a while, gave me an eye patch, and they told me to go home for a few days and keep the eye patch on. So I was reading an American Rifleman magazine, and there was an advertisement in there for a company called Dillon Precision, and it was in Scottsdale, and I said, see if they need anybody. So I called them and drove up 2 days later and interviewed and worked there for 11 years.
Dang. And were you really interested into the firearm thing just as much as
I was
snakes?
already a reloader.
Oh, okay.
And so I went there and working with the reloaders and working in sales and doing all that stuff and talking to everybody. And then I ended up going to a company in Missouri, and I was a ballistician there and writing reloading manuals. And when you, excuse me, are you guys familiar with reloading?
Yeah.
When you shoot your gun, you end up with an empty case.
Right.
So then you want to reload it,
Right.
because it's a lot less expensive. Plus, and this is what I do now, is reload the ammunition or load ammunition for your firearm.
Okay. So it'd be
For your
specifically
distance.
for me.
Some of what I do is specifically for a customer.
Okay.
Their gun, their shot for that customer.
Is that why you see a lot of people collecting their used cases?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. It's to reload. You knock the spent primer out, put a new primer in,
Okay.
resize the case,
Okay.
meaning push it back, because when you fire it, it expands.
Okay.
And so you want to make it small, put it back to the original size so it'll hold the projectile in.
Okay.
And you put it through a die and it sizes and knocks the old primer out. Put a new primer in, fill it with propellant, whatever you've got that your gun likes. And when you're a reloader, you test that all the time. You get a different bullet, different powder, you go out, you shoot, practice, find out which one is most accurate. And then that's the load that you want. And then you seat the bullet in, or you've done this before, but you put the bullet in and you're ready to shoot again.
Right.
Now the difference is between buying it new at a sporting goods shop and now you're paying a fraction of that cost.
I was gonna ask, what does
Buying
something
the
like that
components.
cost? So you can get, I don't know, let's just say 100 rounds for whatever it costs.
Well, we'll just say that it's a third the price of what you're paying for.
Oh, wow.
And I say I'm giving you a ballpark figure.
Right, nothing
because,
specific.
I mean, it's, what that means, I mean, if you're loading a 9mm, you're loading a 338. A
Right.
338 Lapua mag, which is a pretty big cartridge.
Mhm.
It's going to cost me $4.50 to $6 a cartridge if I buy it at the sporting goods shop. I can load it for $2. All right, I mean, which is still pretty expensive. But with a handgun, you can load for 17 to 25 cents.
See, I feel like that's significantly more, like less and more. Like,
It's significantly less than what you're paying
Yeah.
for what you're buying at the sporting goods shop.
and so for like something like that, like so I use a case. Okay, today I shoot one. I use that case. I reuse it. How many times is too many times, or is there not an amount?
Depends on it. There's not an amount that I can give you yes or no,
Right.
because your gun may have an oversized chamber.
Okay.
The load you're using may be hot,
Okay.
meaning a powerful load.
Right.
And the more times that you expand that metal in the case, you know how you take a piece of wire,
Yeah.
when you want to break a piece of wire, you keep going like that. The reason it breaks there is because it work hardens.
Yes.
It gets warm where you're doing that, and the heat hardens the material, and so it cracks where you're bending it like that. And and so what happens when you shoot your case is it work hardens.
Oh, okay.
So some people will, especially with rifles, they will anneal the case mouths. The case mouth is the little part at the top where the
Okay.
bullet sits,
Mhm.
and that's the part that does the most expanding, because it expands when the bullet is being pushed out, and then you put it in a die and it's compressed. So yes, it's not as fast as going like this with a wire, but it's still doing it. It's
Every
still
time.
moving the material. And so people will anneal it. They will heat the mouth of the case to soften it up, and then put it in some oil or water to cool it off quickly so that it doesn't get hard. Okay? In the case of the handguns, down at the bottom you've got, this is the best I can do, at the bottom you've got your primer that goes here.
Okay.
Okay? Then for this much of your case, it's solid brass.
Okay.
And that's called the web, the base. It's called the web, the base. And then it's thick and it goes down to the thin part. And this part from where it's thickest to where it's the normal diameter or thickness is called the web. And what happens is this, every time you fire it, it moves material forward because that's the way the gases are going. And you'll get a ring right around the bottom of the web. And it's called a case separation.
Oh wow.
So to tell you how many times you can shoot it varies from gun to gun and load to load.
Okay.
And also the manufacturer of the case.
Right.
Some manufacturers are harder, some are softer, some are thinner.
What's the preference?
Depends on what cartridge you're shooting. Because again, some people make better rifle cases than others, but this company may make a better pistol case than this company.
Oh, okay. I
This
see.
company may make a good 30-06, but this one makes a good 5.56.
Okay. So I have another question. There's, I don't know, some people have the tendency of swapping between grains. Like how, is that ever recommended? Like the,
Grains on the propellant or on the projectile?
what am I thinking? It's not grains, it's, what am I thinking?
Different brands of cartridges?
No, you know how each bullet, is it weighted different?
Right.
Yeah.
There's 180 grain. There's,
Yeah.
Yeah. What cartridge are you talking about?
I'm just saying, like, in general, like, let's say I'm shooting my rifle, which is a 30-06.
Okay.
Okay, and I used the 165,
Okay.
but then I decided I'm going to go up a little bit. Is that ever recommended, or should I pick one and...
What are you shooting?
That's what it depends
What is
on.
your target?
So if it's a deer, it's whatever, and then if
Yeah.
I'm shooting an elk...
What is your range?
Let's just
I
say,
mean, the point, excuse me, a 150 for a
okay.
30 so we'll stick with the 30-06.
Okay.
A 150 grain you're going to use for a closer shot.
Uh-huh.
because it doesn't have the terminal energy. All right, the farther you go, the slower it's going.
Okay.
And it doesn't have, case in point, you know, if I throw that, now if I throw a golf ball, which one's going to hurt you more?
That's what you're saying.
All right, as you go, it hits and it has the impact. It has the impact when it gets, it's called the terminal energy. With 150 grains or 168 grains going the same speed, you are getting hit harder with the 168.
Right.
Because it's heavier.
Okay, but then the distance might vary.
But the distance is going to vary. The 168 is going to reach out farther and hold the energy, but it may be more accurate up close shooting the 150.
That makes sense. It's like our disc. The lighter it is, the further you can go.
Right.
But the heavier a disc, the more it'll stay on its line. And
Right.
That makes sense.
But it doesn't go as far.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay. See,
That's interestingly enough, it's fluid dynamics. When you're throwing your disc or you're throwing a bullet. It's what's happening in the air.
So basically it just varies on what it is you're doing
Right.
depending on...
Right.
That's where you'll depend on which one you want to shoot.
Right.
Okay.
For instance, shooting 200 and 300 yards, I will use a different bullet than I use when I'm shooting 1,000 yards out of the same gun.
A little lighter bullet for the further.
No, I do the lighter bullet up front.
Up front.
And the heavier bullet because it carries farther.
Yeah, the heavier is going to come out, but it, like you said, it's going to have the more momentum.
Right. It's also not deflected by the air as much.
Right. Where the lighter one, it like you said, it's with the disc. The lighter disc, you're
Right.
going to get more fluctuation with it moving in the wind. Whereas a heavier disc, it's going to keep its line.
I get what you're saying. That makes it sound.
I never I knew about them. I just didn't know exactly because I feel like so many people go up and down like they never really know. But then maybe it was me that I didn't know.
Yeah,
You know, it's like why would I switch up what I'm shooting?
Well, but they're also experimenting. I mean, you got to experiment and see which one works best.
Right.
And the other thing is what works best in your gun may not work best in my gun.
Right. That for sure.
So
That much I do know because each gun is, I feel like, different in so many ways.
I have two competition rifles that are made, the barrels are made out of the same stick. I mean, cut off this barrel, I mean, together.
Yeah.
And cut with the same reamer, put on the same actions and everything, completely different loads.
Really?
Yep.
Man, even down to just the same stick, but just
Yep.
still
the
different.
difference between those two barrels, just the difference in the material in the same stick. And, you know, and when I say they don't use the same load, I mean it's 0.2 of a grain difference. And the seating depth is different because each barrel reacts different in the barrel harmonics. When you pull the trigger, excuse me, as soon as a firing pin hits the primer, it starts a vibration through the barrel.
Okay.
When it ignites the propellant and it turns to a gas, the case expands, filling the chamber, pushes the projectile forward. When the projectile goes forward, it strikes what's called the lands.
Okay.
You know, when you look in a barrel, you can see the rifling spirals through there.
Yeah.
The high part is called the lands. The bottom part is called the groove.
Okay.
All right? And that's what imparts the spin to the projectile. In order for that projectile to engage the rifling, there's a space called the lead that goes from a smooth bore to the rifled bore. And there's a ramp at the end of each of the lands. And that's called the lead, L-E-A-D-E. The projectile comes forward out of the case, hits the lead, contacting the lands. And that's called the upset of the bullet. Just, it's a technical term. It's the upset of the bullet. So your pressure inside of the cartridge case goes like that, and then you have the upset and it goes down because the projectile stops, and then it builds back up as the projectile goes over that hiccup / upset, and then moves forward and starts going through the tube. All of this that is happening is putting a vibration through the barrel. there's no place else for it to go because it's starting at the back of the barrel, so the vibration moves forward, and that's called barrel whip. You take a garden hose and you turn it on high and you hold it 4 feet back. Where does the water go?
It's just all over.
It just goes all over the, and that's barrel whip, and that's exactly what happens when you pull the trigger in a gun.
Okay.
That barrel starts to flop. Now, you're not going to be able to see that.
No, it's so small.
I mean, it's pretty minuscule amount, all right? But that affects where the projectile goes. So you work up your loads, and you didn't know this, but you're working up your loads when you're reloading to affect the barrel whip.
Really? Huh. See, but not just, I would have never known that,
Right.
you know?
And but the thing is what you are shooting, you're trying to hit a 10-inch pie plate at whatever distance you're shooting a deer.
Okay.
Okay? Because that's how big your kill zone is.
Okay.
The vital area on a deer is 8 to 10 inches depending on what you're shooting.
Right.
All right, if I'm shooting a squirrel, I got a 2-inch. You know, I mean, but it
Yes.
all depends upon your target. In competition guns and getting down to your 1,000-yard shooting and the bench rest shooting, in bench rest shooting, you're shooting a group. You want to put all 5 shots into one hole.
One hole.
Literally,
Like,
I
so
mean-
you hit it, and then you want the
And you
other
want the
4
other
to follow
fours,
through.
right. The world record for 5 shots is 3/1000ths of an inch.
Oh my gosh.
5 shots
From how far?
from 100 yards.
Oh my god.
I couldn't even.
Bro, that's like, you're just basically, you're in the
one
hole. Yeah,
Right,
you're
one
in the hole every time.
Right. And when some of the bench rest matches, the difference between first and 10th place may only be 100,000ths.
How do you even, like, that's such a
Excuse me.
very small, like, I don't even know how you measure that.
That's
With a
kinda-
magnifying glass and caliper.
That's kind of like horse races when they do like photo finishes. Basically.
No, this is closer than that.
Yeah.
This is so close. Like you said, you gotta use a magnifying glass
it just-
to
what you do is-
determine how much of a difference there is.
That's pretty.
Well, what you do is, I mean, you do it with a magnifying glass, and there's people trained to do the measuring.
Right.
Okay, this isn't group shooting. So, but you look at the hole and you measure the outside to the outside. And if you're shooting a 6mm, the diameter is 0.243 inches. And so what they did was, that 6mm was they measured the hole and it measured
And then
side to side
whatever
was 0.246.
Oh my gosh.
3/1000ths of an inch.
That is, you're basically perfect.
Yeah, and that was fired at a match in Phoenix. In
There had to have been
80
no wind.
or 81. Oh no, it doesn't matter. It always blows out there too. So
Oh fuck. That's impressive though, man. Like I couldn't even imagine.
Imagine the bets on those. That'd be.
Oh man. I don't know.
That'd be pretty
I
sick.
But and so in that barrel whip is important. You can
Right.
see that, all right? Because I mean, you're talking about shooting at 200 yards. If you're over 4/10ths of an inch, it's a large group.
Okay.
I mean, if you can't stick all 5 of them into that cap at 200 yards, you're not
Something.
going to do well.
Yeah.
And then you get into high power shooting. High power shooting is shooting at an X ring, which is depending on what distance you're at. The X ring is, the X ring is always the same size, from 100 yards to 1,000 yards. The difference is how it's exactly the same size on your sights, but it grows incrementally. You know, so it's 10 times as large at 1,000 as it is at 100.
Okay.
But it's the same size that you're shooting at. That make, I mean,
So how is it
What
that
you were
it's
trying to shoot
growing, going further?
because your X ring it's bigger at 1,000 yards than it is at 100 yards because you are closer.
Oh.
But it's the same size as you get out. It's incremental as you go out. They keep getting bigger. And they also make 1,000-yard targets that you can use in your living room. What that means is that the 1,000-yard target isn't quite that big,
Oh, dang.
but you can shoot it in your house.
Okay.
with a BB gun, or
Whatever.
practicing or dry firing and things like that. But when you pull the trigger, you're trying to get it into the X-ring, and then the scores go out. So they're not trying to put it all in the same hole, but they want to hit that same area
That same
every
target.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
With handguns, you get into IPSC and things like that, and they're shooting at different size plates at varying distances, and who can hit those the fastest.
Yeah.
What is gun control? It's being able to hit your target.
That's true.
What's accuracy? Being able to hit your target.
Yeah.
So while bench rests are trying to hit one hole, 1,000-yard or score, they're trying to hit that X-ring. There's a lot of room in that X-ring.
From 1,000 yards. I feel like that's a very, very far shot. Like that's like not many people.
Well, think about this. There's 1,760 yards in a mile, and 1,000 yards is over half a mile.
That's far.
880 yards is a half mile, so 1,760 is a mile. And they're shooting 1,000 yards, and there are people that shoot 1.5 mile and 2 mile matches.
What?
So,
How? That is crazy. And so, how often do you involve yourself in these competitions?
I shoot bench rest, and I've shot some high power matches.
Okay.
And there's 600 matches here once or twice a month.
Oh, okay.
And in Capitan, there's 1,000-yard range.
Okay.
And I haven't got my gun ready yet. I was going to go over and shoot the one in Capitan last month, and I didn't get my cases made. So.
Oh, okay.
Do you just work on guns or anything else? Like anything besides a gun? Do you work on you just talking about explosives? Do you work on any explosive stuff?
Not here.
Like
no.
grenades?
No.
Yeah.
No.
That'd be sick.
So I'm curious, like, do you build your own guns?
I have built parts of them, and I've got gunsmiths that build them. So I'll buy this part here and this part here, and gunsmiths
Okay.
will assemble it. So.
Do you ever prefer that over like already a made gun?
Everything I have is custom made.
Okay,
So.
that's okay. So that's a good question to ask. For those that aren't going to get custom made, because they are probably more expensive to get custom made, and then,
Much more.
But let's say just like for myself, for instance, I want a gun. Let's just keep it in the handgun world. What is your recommended gun for somebody? Like if I was gonna go get one off the shelf at one of the gun shops or wherever.
To do what?
I don't know. Let's just say concealed carry.
Okay. And there are people that are going to watch this and going to disagree with me.
100%. We
Yeah,
get a lot of those people who
So-
disagree with both of us.
Right. No, that's.
They don't ever disagree with me.
They don't.
They agree with me every time.
Let me know how that works out. I carry semi-autos
Okay.
because that's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I like.
Right.
I mean, you can carry a semi-auto. You can carry it anything from a 380 to a 45 ACP.
Right.
Or you can go even bigger, but you know what? That's huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of people carry 9mm.
Okay.
And I know people that carry 45s. I know people that carry 380s. I also know people that carry small revolvers.
Right.
A lot of ankle holsters are small revolvers.
Right.
And I know people that carry backups in their back. I know them carry underside. What do you want to do? You know what? I like the semi-autos because they're reliable and it's quick.
Right.
It's also what I shoot most often. All right. I've got revolvers. I'm more comfortable with a semi-auto.
Right.
I
think
carry a
most people
45 because guess what?
are.
It does what it's supposed to do when it gets there.
Yeah, it's just a big gun.
It's
It's bigger, like, maybe not for everybody, but at least for
Right.
me, it's like, it's too much to be lugging around. And I'm not really a jean person. So for me, I'm like not trying to carry around no 45.
right. But the thing is you also don't want to come in undergunned. I don't.
That's true.
All right. I've been licensed to carry since 1978,
Okay.
and in different states.
Uh-huh.
And I taught classes in Iowa, Missouri, Arizona, and Virginia. And I want to look into getting classes here, or helping out.
Yeah.
But I carried a small handgun for years.
Okay.
And the thing is, everybody says, well, that's not going to win any fights. I said, it'll win one if I have to get into it.
That's what I'm saying. People make it out to be like we're looking for trouble because we carry or
Like,
whatever.
outlaws or something.
Yeah, but it's not like that. It's for the fact I'm always been the I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have
You know
it.
what? And the other thing is, you know what? If you don't want me to carry it, if I got it and we need it, you'll be glad I've got it.
Exactly, and you're not gonna be saying, "Hey, that's a tiny gun," or "It didn't have as many rounds as the other guys," or no, you're gonna be like, "Hey, thank you."
Oh, if something
Yeah.
does happen, if something ever does happen, I hope you are there because I know you're gonna hit your
Well,
target. So
That's probably true
You know,
too.
and the thing is concealed. How's anyone going to know you got it?
That's true.
Unless you're doing something stupid, nobody's going to know you got it.
No, and that's
And it's, you know, if you, all I'm going to say is, and if they find out you got it and there wasn't a reason for it, then you did something wrong.
yeah, you did something to bring that attention
Right.
towards you.
And
No, I
why-
agree.
So don't do that.
No, I 100% agree. I guess, okay, so my question is there's all these brands of guns. Is there a front runner? Is SIG, is Glock, is
All right?
Smith and Wesson? Who are you preferring? Because I know you get custom, so maybe you do have some of those, but I don't know. I guess that's my question. Who makes the most reliable? If you don't want to say, that's
Glock,
fine.
Springfield.
Okay.
You know what? In revolvers, I would go with a Smith and Wesson, and I am not a big revolver fan. I have Glocks. I prefer Springfields.
Okay.
I have a lot of 1911s,
Okay.
or have fired lots of 1911s, and I prefer 1911s over Glocks. On the other hand, I know people who prefer Glocks.
Right.
So, and there are some brands that I wouldn't own if you gave it to me.
Okay. Also, okay, so let's say for instance, I'm gonna go hunt deer, and I'm looking into a rifle. Maybe the price range doesn't really matter. Let's not break the bank. Let's keep it under like $600, like $700. Okay, what's not even so much the brand or whatever, but what is the rifle that you would say is ideal for something like that?
I would have a 30-06 Remington 700 and 30-06.
Okay.
And that's what my choice would be, because that's what my choice has always been.
Because I feel like around here, I think, like, at least the people that watch us, that's a common question. Is we go hunting for deer, we go hunting if you're lucky for an elk, but then you got, like, other things here and there. But common is deer.
30-06, you can load it up, you can load it down.
Okay.
You can load it up for the elk, and you can load it down for
Your
coyotes.
Okay.
What I'm saying, you can use it for, it
Practically
gives you a very
every-
large range. A 308 you can do the same thing with. It's not, you're going to have to be closer for the elk.
Yeah.
But it'll do the same thing on the elk. But you've got to be close,
That's true.
because it doesn't have the reach that the 30-06, it has less propellant behind it.
Okay.
Exactly the same projectile, but it doesn't go as far.
Okay. See, these are good questions because I'm trying to get help for everyone out there right now. It's like, that's something that a lot of people do. They go hunting. So hunting is. Do you still hunt yourself?
Yes, but I haven't here.
Oh, really?
I'm too busy to get a license yet, and
Okay.
it took me a year to figure out how to read their manual.
Well, that's New Mexico. I was just kidding. What was I gonna ask? I know you deal with a lot of firearms. Have you ever ventured off into like the bow, or like a
No.
muzzle loader?
Oh, I got muzzle loaders too.
Do you?
Yeah,
Have you ever hunted with those?
back in Iowa, Missouri, yes.
Oh, okay.
But not here.
Not here.
No.
Well, you said you didn't hunt here, but
Well, I will.
you will, but you haven't
I
yet.
just haven't had, honestly, I've not had time.
No, that's fair.
So,
No, I haven't done muzzle or I haven't done bow, but I want to do bow. It just seems as close as it pretty much, I guess, gets to being.
Primitive.
Yes.
Right.
That's
And,
the
yeah.
good word to use for it.
Right, and my brother is a very avid bow hunter
Really?
in Nebraska,
Oh, okay.
but I've just never had occasion to bow hunt.
Okay.
And when I moved out of Missouri down to Texas, I got rid of my bows.
Okay.
Just because I wasn't gonna come on, I'm retired.
Okay. No, that's cool. Yeah, bow seems super interesting.
Yep.
I mean-
But that's true hunting.
Yes.
I mean, you want to get down to it, you know what? Take a knife. I mean,
No.
no, I'm just saying that.
No, you're right. You're right. That's as good as it gets, pretty much.
And the key to hunting, to me, is the hunt. It's not ambushing something from a long way away. I want to get as close as I can. The longest shot I've ever taken is 80 yards.
Dang. That's almost.
But
That's
you're also
close to
talking about in a heavily wooded area. Here it's going to be tough to do that.
Are you more of a hiker or a blind sitter, or what?
It depends on the area.
Okay, and maybe depending on
In
what
Arizona, I
you're hunting.
was doing stalking.
Okay.
In Iowa and Missouri, it's done from a blind.
Okay. Is that
Because-
why? Is that how they do it there?
Yeah, because
Okay.
well, it's the way the area is.
Okay.
The deer are always coming around, but there's so much. The woods and the fields are so thick that you can't stalk.
Oh, dang.
Noisy.
So you have to wait for the animals to move to you. Whereas out here, you stalk a lot.
Yeah, there's you. Very rarely does anyone blind.
Right, because
It's just so
it's
open.
too open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so open. You just stalk all day, pretty
Yeah.
much. Some people even just drive around.
Yeah.
I'm
and-
like, come on, brother, we driving.
Yeah, and again, I like the hunt. I mean, the last thing that I want to do during hunting season is be successful.
I mean, deer are smarter than you think.
Well, but the thing is enjoy the hunt.
That's true.
Because as soon as you shoot the animal,
it's over.
the work begins,
That's true. You gotta start.
and you're
gutting
done.
it, and
You've
then-
got to dress it. You got to do all that stuff, and you're done.
Oh, you're not gonna hunt no more. Yeah.
So why do you want to be done on the first day?
I don't know. I've been done on the first day. It feels pretty good.
Right, but my point is, I
No, you enjoy
enjoy
the hunt.
being out there. The hunt is the fun part.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
like to see you on that show of Alone.
Why?
Are you more
Honestly,
like
I would like that.
that? I mean, the way it works is like you have to film yourself, like because you don't have a camera crew. You're out
Right.
all by yourself, but you have to find ways to survive, and you
Not
get
impossible. It's actually easier to survive anywhere than people realize.
yeah, and see, and they get 10 items, so you get to pick like 10 items you want to have with you. So
Say less. I'm taking my GPS.
no, it's not about finding civilization.
Oh.
It's about
Surviving.
surviving
Right.
in the wilderness. Like if you have to fish, or you have to snare something, or you
Yeah.
start your own
Right.
fire, or build your own tent, and
I
all
That
this-
could be a problem.
like
Well, I died.
you. I mean, you won't die, but people give up after like this one guy. I think I told you how he had like his little flint starter or whatever, and he was close to the shoreline,
Mhm.
and I guess the high tide came when he went off to do something, and it washed away he couldn't find his starter anymore. Gave up. He was like, "Oh, I can't start a fire," and then in the little subtitles like, "Well, if you spin the stick, blah blah
Yeah,
blah, you can still start a fire."
There's a lot of ways.
Clowning
There's
on
a
them.
lot of things you can do out there. And
I give him like.
But I feel
30
like you
minutes.
would be good at that. Like I don't know, you know like snakes and spiders and bugs and
so
you know
far,
how
you
to
said everything you
hunt.
can eat.
Yeah, those are
I
all.
mean, you're not going to starve.
No, and that's what
It's impossible to starve anywhere.
That's 100% true. Except like this, I'm watching one now, and where are they? They're in South America, in Paraguay, I think. Not Paraguay. That's not. Starts with a P. It don't even matter. But it's like no.
Paraguay's in Central America, South
It's-
America. So
Maybe
Anyway.
it is. Anyways, it don't matter. But like it's in like where there's pumas and like there's wild animals out there. Like you're not just and you're these people that are like taking I don't know whoever the people are that rescue you aren't there like in 5 minutes. So if you get attacked,
Well, the nice thing about that is you're not the top of the food chain.
no, you're not. I think that's probably
you
my
know,
biggest intimidation factor. Is
right. You know, and the thing is, if you're not the apex predator, yeah, guess what? You're just food.
Yep, that's 100%. Like this dude came across like he called it a grave site or whatever for a puma because there's just bones. Like he found a skeleton and there's bones and stuff. I guess that's where the puma would take its meals.
He was just chilling there?
He was like, I can't stay here. No, he was scared, so he had to like kind of hike off away from there. Yeah, I think you would fit. I'm gonna have to hit them up and be like, hey, Big Bros, want to put this guy on right now?
There was an author,
We'll sponsor you.
Edward Abbey was his name. He grew up in Pennsylvania and he worked for the Forest Service, and he worked in Utah at Monument Valley and at Arches National Monument, and he was a fire watcher. But and he did that during the summers when he was going to college. And when he got out of college, he went to Arizona, and that's where he lived. He wrote a bunch of amazing books. But here's a guy that grew up in the big city, found out about the desert, fell in love with it, and in his later years, he lived in Tucson, and he would have a friend of his. He would take a canteen and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And his friend would drive him out in the desert somewhere where he'd never been before. And he'd say, all right, I'll see you in 30 days. And Edward Abbey would walk off into the desert, and his friend would go back to Tucson.
What?
And 30 days later, he would come back to the spot, and if Edward Abbey was there, he would take him back to Tucson. And if he wasn't there, he went back to Tucson alone.
Oh my God, that sounds extreme. But these people.
But that's what I mean. But Edward Abbey did that for years and years and years. He passed away several years ago, not from living in
I thought from the desert.
No, but I mean, but the thing is, he did that for years. That he loved the desert so much that he wanted to be part of the desert. Not what I mean, dying out.
No, not dying, but
he wanted
survival.
to go out and
Test
appreciate the desert because it's such a beautiful, and it is a harsh place.
Yeah, because
I love the desert.
I feel like everybody should have to do, or not have to, but should do, to test your. I don't know what that even is considered.
Resilience or fortitude.
Yeah.
And I don't know that everybody should do that because there's a lot of things in the desert that can hurt you.
Yeah,
I mean, the interesting thing about the desert is there as much life per square foot in the desert as there is in the Midwest or back east. It's just you can't see it. It's either underground, hiding, and it comes out at night, but there's a lot of life in the desert. And the cool thing is that not only is it a harsh environment, but everything can hurt you. You know, the insects bite, the reptiles bite, the plants bite. You know, you either get stung or bitten by most everything in the desert. And the Arizona desert is the low desert. This is the high desert. And you have some crossover of fauna and flora. But all of it is intricately designed to last in that ecosystem. And everything can hurt you. And if you are not familiar with the area, you can be hurt pretty bad. You know, whether you slip down some rocks and slide down into a canyon, or you're walking along and you don't have the pocket gophers here that you do in the low desert, the kangaroo rats. But you can be walking along and fall into the ground and break your leg.
Oh, dang.
You can grab hold of a tree and cut yourself, poke yourself. There's just a lot of things that you can do. I saw some people one time in White Tanks mountain range in Arizona. Stopped a car, and I was sitting up on a hill watching everything and communing with nature. And this car stops, and the kid bails out of the car, goes running across. All of a sudden he rolls on the ground and he's holding his foot, screaming for mom, and mom gets up and she starts running over there, gets just about to her son, and she rolls on the ground, lands by him, and she's screaming. he's already out of the car, and Mom's yelling, and he goes, nope, I don't know what's over there, but I'm not coming. Well, they were all wearing flip-flops, and there was a cactus under the sand, and the spines are sticking up out of saguaro is what it was, and the spines are sticking up out of the sand, and they stepped on those with their flip-flops, which have absolutely zero protection, and the spines came up into their feet and did a number on their feet. The thing is, if you're in an area that you don't understand, learn of the dangers before you go out there.
Okay.
But again, you were talking about survival. There's moisture in the cactus pads. There's moisture in most of the plants that are out there. There's also moisture in some places not far underground.
Huh.
The other thing, though, is that it gets mighty chilly at night.
Yeah, that's what's...
It's going to be 105 degrees or 110 degrees in a day. But it can get down to 35 or 32
that's what's
or 40
crazy
at night.
about the desert. Like, how does it cool off so freaking fast?
There's nothing to retain the heat.
Okay. It's just open.
It just opened and the heat just comes in and it goes up.
Huh.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if I could really do it, but the thought of it sounds like, why not try it?
Yeah,
Like just 2 weeks. Like, don't go balls to the wall like 30 days or nothing, but like even a week. Like, just survive a week, because you could even starve, or not starve, but you could go without food for like, I think it's like 8 to 12 days if, like, with no water or food. If you at least have water.
Yeah, if you have water, you can make it, but if you can't,
yeah,
you can't go past that without water.
Yeah, so even then, you'll be fine for a week,
right.
Even if you don't find any water or you run out of the water you go.
I don't think I go 8 to 12.
No, you can only go 3 days. I think it's 3 days to 4 days without water.
Without water?
I'm too privileged. I don't think I'll last 8 to 12.
But even if I gave you a gallon and you let it stretch.
You got some reserve. No.
So it's just, I don't know, man. Like, even a week of testing your
Alright, let's do 3 days.
3 days?
Could we survive for 3 days?
I can survive for 3 days.
Well, but look, alright, the prickly pear cactus.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Everywhere.
You can eat that all day long and never run out of those.
That's true. And that's hydration and some type of, like, calories.
There's moisture in them.
Yeah.
And there's also fiber, and there's food. I mean, we were out one day shooting, and I said, there's nothing out here that you can't live on. I mean, there's no reason you can't live out here. Guy at work comes up with a knife, and he's got a pad on it, and he says, here, have lunch. Cool. So I pulled my knife out and scraped it open and ate it. I mean, you could eat the whole pad and everything, but I didn't have time, so I just ate them. And it was in the spring. And in this time of year, they'll be very good. Well, especially if we get some rain.
Yeah.
But they'll be very good. There's not a thing wrong with them. And you can eat them raw, you can cook them. I mean, not places. I don't know. I haven't looked for any in the grocery store. I'm sure they've got them.
I don't know. I've not.
Yeah, I've seen a couple cactuses there.
Pardon?
Cacti, I've seen them at farmers and
like I say, just not places. And there's a lady back in Missouri she was from Mexico City, and Elvira ate them all the time, and she made her own. She would have relatives in Mexico mail her pads, and she would make fresh Nápoles. And
dang.
I mean, it just
doing it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think only you prevent yourself from surviving. Like, anybody that's out there, there's sources. You gotta find them. It's like doing anything else. Like, if you don't know something, what do? You research.
Right.
You find the sources to enhance your knowledge of whatever it is you don't know of something.
Well, cockroaches. They creep me out, but there are people that eat those, that stir fry cockroaches and eat them. I'm not going to do that. On the other hand, I have picked up cicadas off of trees and eaten those. I've picked up grasshoppers and eaten those. I don't have a problem with any of that, but I'm not going to eat a cockroach.
Yeah, I'm not eating no cockroach.
See, but I guess to me, I don't mind things. Like,
right.
If it's a bug, it's a bug, but if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm hungry, I might eat that bug.
You eat a cockroach?
I might eat, and I can't tell you I will or won't eat a cockroach, but you know what? If there's 2 or 3 beetles or grubs over there, I'm going to have them before the cockroach. So.
Facts.
That's true. That
And
is true.
earthworms, I mean, the thing is we look at things and we say, wow, that's terrible, that's disgusting, you can't eat that. Yeah, there are cultures that eat that.
He's caught on because I always say this now to people. I'm like, hey, do you like this or whatever, or whatever? Because a lot of people eat with their eyes,
Right.
which is they see something and then they see, oh, that looks disgusting.
Yep.
But then they've not even tried it.
Right.
What did I catch on to?
That you've acknowledged that a lot of people do that.
Well, yeah, I do that.
I know you will.
To this day.
It's
Well,
just
And I always tell, what I've always said to people is I will eat anything that's been prepared by somebody who normally eats that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, because I wouldn't
I mean,
want
but-
somebody that doesn't know anything or doesn't drink alcohol to make me an alcoholic drink.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is if you go to Tibet and they pull out this big thing of bugs and they sit down and start eating it, guess what? It must be lunch.
Yep. Right.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Because I see people like eating scorpions, and if for somebody that's like probably not from like Asia or something doesn't
And-
make it, I'm be like, nah, I'm not eating that, bro.
Yeah, but if they're eating it like
No, I'm
it's
saying
chips,
if they're not from like that.
like if
area,
you start
they're not making
eating,
it.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like you said, like if he just started pulling out like this whole thing of just bugs and he's just grubbing, I'm be like, yo, get some of that.
Yeah, but everything's edible.
That's true. That is.
Is
I mean,
it?
everything is edible. And people say, here, you want to have this salad? I said, no, my food eats that.
That's
I eat-
true. That's true.
My
That is
pork or my beef
Yeah.
eats that.
Yep.
Facts.
I get my vegetables, but it goes through a beef first.
That's true. Good steak, medium rare.
So,
Anyway,
but again, I mean, there's no reason that you should not be able to survive.
That's true. I think. I don't know if I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna look into it and then I'm gonna see what I think.
You get back with me?
Yeah. I'll get back with you and be like, hey man, let's try this out. But see, I want to go somewhere like. I don't want to go to like drop me off in Rio Doso. I want to go like the Himalayas.
Well,
Oh, you know where that's at.
I just want to go somewhere where I haven't gone and I'm gonna be like super.
Nobody has gone there because no one knows where that's at.
I'm just saying.
the Himalayas?
Yeah, where is this?
Austria.
Where's it at?
Austria and Switzerland.
In the Europe.
In the Europe. You can't go be calling it the Europe.
I didn't say the Europe. I said in Europe.
But there's a lot of places, I mean, whether in Iowa, Missouri, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, you can survive. New Mexico, you can survive.
Yeah. See, it would be more of a challenge though if I went to one of these places or whatever because I don't know that place. Now, if I go to Rio Doso, it's gonna be too
Well,
tempting.
but you can't go to Ruidoso.
Why?
I'm putting you in the middle of nowhere. And while you may think you're in the middle of
Ruidoso.
nowhere in Ruidoso, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that, but,
That's the point. I guess that's what
They
I
don't know where
wanna-
they're at first?
I think they know where they're at, but they don't.
No,
Like the places that they go are super remote. Like there's nothing. Like these fools
yeah,
went
and that's
to.
what I'm saying. I mean, we can take you.
There's an island called Vancouver Island, I believe. It's like right
Yeah,
off.
it's right off of Washington State.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
beautiful
a little-
place. Beautiful flower gardens. And,
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Really? They were there.
Yeah.
Like right, like that was the first season. They were on Vancouver Island and stuff, and yeah, they were just chilling off this little coast on that island, and they were all trying to survive.
What if the guy with the little flint?
That was a guy that lost his flint, and one of the guys, this bear showed up. Like late at night, this bear showed up, and he just got so spooked. He was like, "I'm out. I'm done. I quit." And he quit. It's like this other guy though. He was just like
It's a beast.
beast mode. He was like, "I'll be out here for another 100 days." Like he didn't care. He was just trooper. He
Yeah,
ended up winning
well,
$500,000. Then his wife came and they got him, and he was like, "Man, I actually expect to be out here longer. I was like, what? I think he lasted 7 or 8 days.
No kidding.
Out there.
It's not that bad. I mean, if you know,
See,
That's-
that would be so cool.
if you know what you're doing, I don't think that's a long time.
But it was cold. Like they were. I don't know if they were in the. It didn't seem like they were in the middle of winter, but like it was so cold that even like the floor would frost. Like so much frost. Like we don't know frost until you see that. It's just like what? It's like snow, and the floor's just like crunchy, and then it dissolves. You know, once it kind of warms up, and
Yep. No, it's. They just.
they did it, man. They did it.
The whole idea is don't panic and go forward. Oh man, that's too bad. Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What's the theme? Don't panic.
Don't panic.
You know what?
Yeah, because that's what I think. Who said it? I think they're on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's not. It's like the mind over matter thing. Like, what is it? It's not. You don't. Fuck, I don't even remember. I can't even quote it. But it's otherwise you inflict your own suffering. Like, yeah, things are gonna hurt. You cause pain. Like pain's real. But it's all mental, whether or not how much you suffer from it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what it was. Like, things suck. Yeah, they suck. But if you're mental, I think that's what they struggled the most with, was being alone. It's like you're alone. You have nobody to talk to other than this camera you're carrying around.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I could do the camera thing.
See, and I have more trouble with the camera. I just like to go out there and do it. The tough part would be the camera, because otherwise, I mean, my wife, my family always said that, you know, as soon as I got out, the only thing I was doing was exploring.
There you
I
go.
mean, I still do it today. I get out of, I just start exploring. The first thing I start looking for is snakes and bugs,
That's crazy.
because it's.
I'm all looking for aliens.
I'm not looking for rocks and sticks. Just to look see
Yeah,
if
but
I
I
can
mean-
find a cool stick or a rock.
Oh my gosh. Well, we appreciate you, man.
No
You brought a
problem.
lot of knowledge today. I mean, stuff I didn't even expect to talk about. I think that's the best. That was cool. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please like, please subscribe. Road to 500. I mean, you guys are doing a hell of a good job. Also, we closed our donations. As of the other day, we raised $1,000 exactly. We'll be giving updates here and there, or we might just do one big update. Like we really not gotten over that part yet. Also, if you guys know anybody that needs some type of help, and like, I'm not saying we can help them for sure. We're not gonna make sure we do it. We will evaluate it, because there are a lot of people that need help, but we will take them into consideration. And if we can help even just a little, we'll do that too. So remember, it's $1,000 is a lot, but we're not gonna be able to help everybody. So we're gonna have to pick and choose. It's nothing personal, but we are gonna be helping as many as possible. So again, till next time, with the Beard Bros, peace.